Welcome to another video. And before I get into this video, the Paris Olympics, the 2024 Paris Olympics will be held in Paris, France. That will be next month, and I'm gonna watch some of it because in the past I used to watch the Olympics, so I won't be able to watch all of it because I live in a part of the world where it's night and overnight, and the Olympics in Paris is going to be going on in the daytime, 13 hours ahead, because Paris is 13 hours ahead of the time that's, well, what time is it here? Like for instance, okay, someone's gonna run the 50-yard dash or do jousting. Well, yeah, that's gonna happen at, I say, like at at 1 o'clock Paris time, but here it's gonna be like 4 or 5 a.m. It's gonna be like 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning. So I won't be able to watch all the Olympics. So I'm probably gonna watch like part of it. I get up in the morning. It's gonna be morning here, and in Paris, it's gonna be like afternoon and evening time there. Like the day is winding down there. So and plus I'm gonna be busy doing things. So I won't be able to watch all of it. And I'm probably gonna have a job. Next month if I ever land one or not. So yeah, so okay, so that's all I gotta say on that. So let me talk about what I want to talk about in this video. Okay, in this video, I want to talk about foreign people who live in foreign countries who hate speaking English. I want to talk about this. Okay, English is a very strong, dominating language. It dominates everything around the world. You got non English speakers who learn English. Yeah, they learn English. They speak English very well. And people in foreign countries, they speak English way better than how people speak English here in the United States. Yeah, they speak English better than English speaking Americans. But you got these countries where people who have knowledge of English, they hate speaking English. Like for instance, okay, French President Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, or the president of the French Republic, or République Française. Even though he's very even though he has knowledge of English because he learned how to speak English, he is originally a French speaker because French is Emmanuel Macron's native tongue. And I heard that Emmanuel Macron avoids speaking English because he wants to speak French, because French is his native tongue. And there's English. There's people who are there's people who live in other countries who speak their native tongue, who have knowledge of English. They hate speaking English. They don't want to speak it. I mean, they learn the language because they want to communicate with English speakers, people who don't speak their native tongue, but they hate speaking English, and they rather speak their native tongue. And I don't understand it. Like, okay, if you hate speaking English, then why did you learn that? Why you learn English in the first place? Well, I'll tell you why. And I'm not a genius, but I think these people who live in countries like like Europe, live in countries in Europe, countries in Africa, countries in Asia, countries in Latin America. I don't know. I'm just gonna say this. I think these people who are very knowledgeable of English, they hate speaking English. They want to avoid speaking English, and they just want to speak their native tongue. Speak the language of their country. And I'm gonna say this. I haven't been learning French as of late, and I need to learn that language. But if I learn French and I start speaking it and I'm very fluent in it, like, I'm not gonna hate speaking French. And I'm not, I want to speak French because I want to speak a different language. I want to communicate with people in countries that have the French language. Learn about French culture. In those countries that have French. Like countries like Canada, Belgium, France, Luxembourg. Any country that has the French language, I want to communicate with Francophone people. But like I say, if I learn French, I'm not gonna try to avoid speaking French and just speak English, the language that I'm speaking right now. Yeah, language, even though I speak English, it's just the only language that I know how to speak, but I speak a little bits of French, not a lot. Because I've been learning French in the past. I've been learning it right now. I was learning in the past a little bit, by watching YouTube videos that have a native French speaker on it, and listening to like radio stations where people speak French. Radio stations like out of Canada and France on TuneIn Radio, which is a website that contains radio stations from all over the world. I'm trying to learn French from that, and also on French language lessons on videos on YouTube. Yeah, and I'm not going to be annoyed or angry or bitter if I come across a Francophone person who speaks French to me. Yeah, I want to communicate with them in French, and I am, But if I run across an English speaker, I'm going to I'm going to communicate with them in English. But it's just like this. Like, okay, I'm going to take France. Okay, it's like this. Okay, in France, you got people in the country, native people who speak French. French is the only language that they know how to speak. All they speak is French, and that's about it. Then you got people who are bilingual in both English and French. Then you got people who speak nothing but English. And in France, you don't have to learn French if you want to or not. You can go to a college or university in France and just study completely in English. But it would be best for you if you move to France to learn French, so you can communicate with people who just speak French and not English. Same thing with countries in Latin America. And I'm gonna throw in Spain. You got you got people in those places. They speak nothing but Spanish. Then you got people who are bilingual in both Spanish and English. And then you got people who speak nothing but English. But I don't know if those people exist. People who speak nothing but English in Latin America, I don't know if these people exist or not. But I know that you got people who speak nothing but Spanish and people who are bilingual in Spanish and in English. Yeah, like it doesn't matter what country you go to. If you're an English speaker, if you want to learn another language, you gotta learn that language of that country you want to live in. But that's not always the case, because you got people who come into the U.S. from I think from Latin American countries and Haiti. They come in here. They come in this country. I'm just gonna focus on the Spanish speakers. You got some of those people who come in this country. They don't wanna learn English, and they just wanna learn Spanish. They just want to stick with speaking Spanish, and they want you to communicate with them in their language, force you to learn their language, which doesn't make any sense. Like, okay, you're in the U.S., so you're supposed to go and learn English so you can communicate with people who speak nothing but English. But you got people who came out of Latin America who are like that, and you got people who were born in America who are Latino, and they're both fluent in both English and Spanish. But you got these Latin American people who escape violence and crime in Latin American countries like Mexico, and Colombia and Venezuela, those corrupt, violent countries with gangs and drug cartels and whatnot. Yeah, they escape violence. They escape all that to come to the U.S. When they get here. Like some of them who end up living here. So I'm not trying to be racist or anything, but like some of them don't want to learn English. That's kind of like me. Like I want to move to France or want to move to France, and I don't want to learn French. I just want to speak English and just have people have people who are French speakers who don't speak English. I want them to learn my language, learn English, so they can communicate with me in my native tongue, which is, again, that makes no sense. So, I should be learning French to communicate with those people. Learning French isn't easy. It's very difficult. It's kind of hard. French is kind of tricky. You can substitute words and rearrange a sentence in French. It's kind of confusing, but I'm not letting it bother me, and I really want to learn this language. I like French. I want to learn French, and I really do. Yeah, I don't hate the language. I don't, and I think French is a very beautiful, interesting language to learn. And it is. But yeah, going back to like, people in countries who have their native tongue, and they know how to speak English because they learn English, and they hate their language, and they hate speaking English, and they avoid speaking it. Then you got people who don't want to speak, who are not interested in learning another language. This I hear this from people from countries like Germany or Deutschland. You got some people in that country who don't want to learn English, and they just want to speak German and don't want to speak English at all. It's and I find that kind of shocking. You got people like that who live outside the U.S. who don't want to learn English or any other language. They're just happy with the language that they know how to speak. And I got no problem with that. It just shows that these people are just misanthropic. I don't know. I guess they don't want to communicate with English speakers and don't want to have anything to do with English speakers. So, yeah. So, you got countries all over the world, you got a lot of countries, so I don't know how many countries that are in the world. There's a lot of them. I don't know how many countries there are. But hold on, I'm going to check, so I'm going to pause the camera and find out. Okay, I stopped the camera and went online and found out there is 193 countries in the world. I don't know if that's right or not. I don't know, but that's what I saw. So yeah, you got all these countries in the world, and in these countries, like everybody has their native tongue, and everybody speaks their native language, and also in the world there's a language barrier where human beings won't understand each other because of the language that they speak. So that's a language barrier. You're always going to have a language barrier where you have two people who speak different languages. One speaks Greek, and the other speaks German. And these two people won't understand one another. Yeah, yeah. Even though in these countries you got some people who have knowledge of the English language and they speak English and that's not their native tongue, and and they're bilingual in both English and their native language. You're gonna have some of these people who you're gonna hate English. They're gonna avoid speaking it and just speak their native language. Yeah, you're gonna have people who are like that, And I don't, and if I ever learn French, I'm not gonna have a disdain for French. I mean, I'm gonna respect French. I'm gonna cherish French if I have knowledge of the language, and I'm not gonna avoid speaking it either. Then again, I'm probably gonna run into an English speaker. I'm probably gonna say a lot of stuff to them. I'm probably gonna curse them out and say a lot of hurt. I'm gonna be hurling insults towards them in French, and they're not gonna know what the hell I'm talking about. And that's gonna be the beauty of that. Yeah, I'm gonna use French to do that. Yeah, because I'm gonna be surrounded by a lot of people who don't speak French. And I'm gonna be the only one. Yeah, because I live in a hick redneck place here in East Texas. Yeah, I mean, some a-hole gonna put me down. Some person gonna give me a hard time. Some person gonna act stupid around me. I'm gonna be calling them every name out of the book in French, Francais. Yeah, that's right. Long Doyle, Long Doyle, so like that. Yeah, yeah. Francais. Like and speaking of French, there's different types of French in the world. Believe it or not, here in North America, or in the United States, there's small pockets of French speakers. Here in the U.S., you got French speakers, in Louisiana that speaks like Louisiana French, Creole. Then somewhere in the state of Missouri, you got Missouri French or Paw French. Then in New England, I think you got like New England French. That's kind of similar to Canadian. Okay, yeah, it looks like I ran out of memory on my smartphone, so yeah, I cleared out the memory on my smartphone, so let me start over again. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah. Yeah, I was talking about the French language here in North America, or America du Nord. Okay, okay, in North America, or America du Nord, or the United States, here in the U.S. you have or the United States, you have small pockets of French speakers. In Louisiana, in the southern part of the state, you got people who speak Louisiana French, or also Louisiana Creole. Then in Missouri, you got Missouri French or Paw French. Then in New England, in the northern part of New England, you got New England French, which is kind of similar to Canadian French. Also, you go into Canada, into Quebec. which you have Quebec French, or Français Québécois. Then you go into New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia. You have Acadian French, and there's a dialect somewhere in New Brunswick that I forgot what it was called. Then in Newfoundland and Labrador, you got Newfoundland French. And also, I think somewhere in North Dakota in the U.S., you got Muskrat French. But the French that I'm interested in learning how to speak is Metropolitan French, which is in France. I look at Quebec French. It's kind of old fashioned. It's kind of old and old fashioned. It's kind of like, to a French speaker in France. French speakers in France, I heard, have a hard time understanding French speakers in Quebec, because because Quebec French, or Français Québécois, it's kind of old fashioned. It's kind of like a French speaking person in France. When they listen to a French speaker in Quebec, it's like listening to their old colonial ancestors from centuries upon centuries upon centuries upon centuries ago. That's what it's like. And so I'm not going to put down French speakers in Quebec. Speaking of Quebec, Quebec has these hardcore laws where they go around and make sure store names and everything is in French, not in English or any other language. If they see a store that doesn't have the name of the store in French, that store owner will pay a fine and be punished. But if it's like stores like Walmart, or Best Buy, they're okay. What was really hilarious, seeing the name of KFC in Quebec, being different. I can't describe it, but it's kind of hilarious, Now I can say the initials PFK or something like that instead of KFC. It's hilarious. It's kind of hilarious. But Quebec is doing what they're doing to preserve their French language and their French heritage. From their New France or Nouvelle France roots. So anyway, I don't want to talk too long on this. Well, anyway, let me wrap this up. My thoughts on people who don't want to learn, who knows how to speak English, outside of English speaking countries. They have knowledge of English and they avoid speaking it because they want to speak their native tongue and they hate speaking English. I'm saying to myself, why you go through all the trouble to learn English and you want to avoid speaking it, and you just want to speak your native tongue to your countrymen who speak the same language as you. I'm gonna say this. The English language to me, I know it's very dominant, it's very powerful, but I'm gonna say this. English to me is very, very boring. English is a very boring, flat language. You know, I'm speaking this language right now, and it's boring. I want to speak another language rather than English. Yeah, I have the knowledge of the metric system down pat. I've been using metric more than the imperial system. I find the imperial system to be very, 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 very complicated and hard to understand. And, I grew up around that system, the imperial system here in the U.S., which is the United States Customary System, or the USCS, basically a modified version of the old British imperial system. So when I'm driving my car, I drive more in kilometers per hour than miles per hour. So, that's just me. And, I want to get away from English and just speak French, but I'm still going to speak English, I'm not going to ignore that language. I'm still going to have knowledge of it. I do. So that's all I got to say in this video. Thank you for watching the video. Merci. Merci beaucoup. Thank you for watching the video. Cheers and au revoir. Bye. Okay, I want to correct myself on the total number of countries in the world. There are 195 countries in the world. That's the total number of countries throughout the world. And I just want to correct myself because I think I was wrong on how many countries that I said when I went online and found out what the total number of countries there are around the world. So no harm done. So there is 195 countries. 195 of them. In some of these countries, you're going to have a language barrier where one person won't understand the other. Yeah, there's a lot of people scattered all over the world, and they speak different languages, and they won't understand each other. And that's just how it is. Alright, that's all I have to add in this video. Okay, see you later.